Hey guys, today we're going to cover the art styles of the Metroid franchise. We're also going to cover some design aspects of specific characters and compare them to other versions of that character. So with that, let's get into it. First though, a little test. Do you know what faction this belongs to? And this? This? And finally this? You more than likely got all of these correct. That is a clear sign of a good art style. The look is so iconic and good that you can tell what objects, accents, and so on belong to who. The art of the games is permanently linked to Metroid and the factions from in those games. Of course, this isn't all that we can talk about when it comes to art styles on Metroid, but these are particularly easy things to point out. Every faction in Metroid has a specific art style. You may have noticed that I slipped one in from Halo there as well, as every franchise has to have specific looks and art styles to be unique, iconic, and genre defining, such as the case with Halo and Metroid. Halo did this with literally flying colours. The series, the looks of the creatures, and the designs of the armour are so iconic and filled with style that it was confusing and downright offensive when things were changed. From Halo Reach to Halo 4, many things were changed for next to no reason. It's why everyone is so happy that Infinite is going back to the classic art style. The original looks have become synonymous with Halo and its identity. So what does this have to do with Metroid? Well, it's that Metroid's look is iconic and makes Metroid what it is, much like Halo. However, Metroid is pretty lucky, because it has two overall art styles that are linked to the franchise. These two, of course, being the Prime look and the 2D look, the former being a more realistic take on Metroid, while the latter is more cartoony but still stacked with detail. This was thanks to the series being on both a home console as well as a handheld console at the same time, though with the Switch being what it is, it's tough to say what the next 2D game will look like. But it is safe to say that Metroid Prime 4 will still follow the Prime staple of having a more realistic look. That being said though, Metroid has been touching on anime-looking territory, with a lot of the art from the 2D games being anime-like. Metroid Prime 3 also has an anime feel to it in terms of visuals, though that's not a bad thing by any stretch. Getting to specifics though, something visually that is linked to Metroid that couldn't be confused with anything else in gaming is the Chozo. The look of the Chozo was of course inspired by ancient Egyptians and how they depicted art and language. However, you would be hard pressed to find anything that looks like Chozo's art style in other games, even if they were inspired by the same thing. The look of the Chozo is locked with them as a faction and as a species. Samus herself has aided this with her Chozo power suit and gunship. The connections are most apparent in Metroid Prime at the Impact Crater, where the entrance looks identical to Samus's visor and the window of a gunship. While the designs of Samus's suit and the gunship have changed, they have always had a connection to the Chozo and no one will mistake her for another character. That being said, however, the look of the Chozo can come across as unoriginal and relatively generic, given that it bears such a strong resemblance to the look of the ancient Egyptians. What doesn't help is that we never see the Chozo during the peak of their time, or when they were even remotely active as a race. All we get are ruins, and Samus is the sole remnant of what the Chozo represents, visually and as a race as a whole. Speaking of Samus, let's take a look at her and her design over the course of the franchise. Of course, not much of an art style could be established for anything in the original Metroid, but it was a good foundation for the series and for Samus as well. The sequel though set the standard for Samus's overall design, giving the infamous shoulders on the Varia suit, the bulky appearance of the same suit, and even showed what is now her definitive gunship. All games moving forward can trace the design of Samus back to Return of Samus. If Metroid 2 set the standard for Samus in terms of appearance, then Super Metroid's depiction defined it. Most consider Super Metroid's version of Samus to be the best, and it's understandable why. The colours, the subtle animations, the way she's described in the manual, everything about Samus in Super Metroid was defined and was the true incarnation of Samus Aran. But it could be taken a step further to what I think is the perfection of Samus's design, at least when it comes to her suit. We, of course, come to none other than Metroid Prime 2 Echoes. Yes, I mean it. This version of Samus in every way is the perfect representation of this character, at least when she has the suit on. Samus looks bulky, agile, shows emotion, and doesn't take anything. She's curious, alert, tired, strong, afraid, and has a heart, all without saying a word. To me, this is who Samus is, as a character and in terms of the look of the power suit, and it comes from the sequel to the best-selling game of the franchise. It also includes her iconic gunship. This design also reflects the realistic art style that the Prime series is known for. Now, let's take all of that away and talk about Fusion's design of Samus. It does its job flawlessly in downplaying Samus's status at this point in her life. She is weak and afraid, most notably of the SAX. While it's not the most popular design, it definitely fits with the story and the art style of Fusion, with the game almost shaping itself around the suit and Samus's state. We've talked about a lot of what's good so far, but let's go for the not so good examples of Metroid's art style. Of course, the most prominent example is Metroid Prime Federation Force. One of the most prominent reasons why the game didn't do so well was because of the art style. It was a massive departure from what the Prime series is known for, as well as the franchise as a whole. The chibi style of the game was a massive turnoff for fans, including myself. It's just generally the opposite of what Metroid is in terms of visuals. It's childish, goofy, and it's not even that detailed. Of course, that's not the only reason why the game didn't do well, but it's a very big one. The other game that has a questionable art style is Other M. The game tried to bring the art style of Super Metroid into 3D, but sadly it just doesn't work. Not only is Samus's power suit absolutely grotesque, but it just sticks out like a sore thumb when placed in a relatively detailed environment. Well, yeah, Samus has always had the look that you wouldn't miss her, but at least she looked like she belonged in the environment that she was in, whereas in Other M, she just looks green screened in. The enemies also strongly resemble their versions in Super Metroid, but they could look better and aren't as iconic as the originals or even the Prime versions of the enemies, and even the allies of Other M, the Galactic Federation. Speaking of which, even though they seem like they're pretty generic, the iterations of the Galactic Federation in the Prime games, with the exception of Federation Force, are distinctive and iconic, namely the blue visor and the motif of the T-shapes in the majority of their technology, like the visor, shoulder pads, breastplate, and even the ships of the Federation. This art style is mostly on display in Corruption, but I feel that the peak of the Federation's look was in Echoes. It's more realistic, gritty, and more like what humans would build. Corruption's version, while great, it's a bit out there in terms of designs for ships, but the troopers do look good. To compare these guys to the Other M design, the Prime versions are just way more badass and even more realistic in what people would wear in this sort of setting. Now, we probably come to the most unique art style for a faction in Metroid, the Luminoth. I don't think any alien race in Metroid comes close to the aesthetic and style of the Luminoth. Not only do we see what their civilization is like when it's in ruins, in Aegon Wastes, we also see what it's like during their peak in Sanctuary Fortress. But not only that, we also see it when nature takes back the land in Torvus Bog. Every part of Echoes is unique, and aesthetically, everything serves a purpose, and it's easy to tell what belongs to what. This belongs to the Federation, this belongs to the Space Pirates, this belongs to the Luminoth, and so on. To me, Echoes is the best art style and look of any Metroid game. The aesthetics are unique and iconic, the designs are creative and definitive in many aspects, and just the game overall is probably the definition of what a Metroid game should look in terms of art, design, and feel. That being said though, there is a game that comes close. AM2R is my favourite Metroid game, period. There's just so much to love about this game, and the art is definitely one thing to love. It's a blend of Zero Mission's art style, as well as including some original textures, especially later fan-made versions of the game. This game is just so amazing. While it's not the best looking Metroid game in terms of aesthetic, it borrows a lot of elements from the Prime series too, with how it shows the Federation, but also Other M too. This game is just fantastic in every way. The art style is just so beautiful. Mix it in with the music, you have the second most Metroid-y Metroid game available. The Chozo look like how the Chozo should, Samus looks how she should, and the planet looks and feels alive. It's just wonderful. But like I said, Echoes, it just surpasses every other Metroid game, in my opinion. Everything is unique, detailed, and the world is alive, it breathes. What also helps with this is the atmosphere and tone of the game. It's way darker, and the art style complements this in almost every single way, making what I think is probably the best Metroid game. Maybe not in gameplay, but definitely in terms of look and aesthetic. So that was my video on the art styles of Metroid. Sorry it took a while, I got caught up, I had to record the entire game of Prime and Echoes, so I'm sorry for the delay. But this is sorted now, and I hope you enjoyed it. This video was voted by you guys. You decided you wanted this video, and I'm happy to do it. This was a lot of fun to make, and it was during my Echoes playthrough that I realized that it was just so amazing in terms of its art style and designs. I was really surprised, but yeah, this video is done and dusted. Thank you to Ryou again for making this icon. I still love it, and you can check out his work in the description below. His stuff is great. Now to Patreon, and I have a new patron, and oh boy I am flabbergasted. The new patron is Randy Rhodes, coming in with a $50 pledge on Patreon. Thank you so much, man. That is just simply incredible. I can't put into words how amazing that is and how thankful I am. This will help me out so much, man. It's amazing. Thank you again. I really mean it. And the next video will be decided by you. Don't worry about that. Also, we can't forget our boy Metroid X Productions, also supporting me with the $1 pledge. Thank you too, mate. You're great for helping me out. If you want to see Metroid content like this, hit that subscribe button and tap the bell icon if you want to get notified for when I upload. Also, like this video and let me know what your favorite art style is. I read all the comments and I want to know what your favorites are. All of this will really help me out, so thank you guys so much for your support. We also hit 300 subscribers! Yay! Thank you guys for your support, it feels awesome. Just 300 people liking my videos, that's awesome. Again, thank you guys for your support, I love you all. So with that, I am that Metroid guy, and I will see you in the next mission. Bye bye.